Hi, my name is Joshua Coleman, and today we will be discussing the Fair Information Practice Principles, or FIPPs, what it stands for, and how it is applied. FIPPs stands for Fair Information Practice Principles. These principles are widely accepted as one of the standards used to curate policies, procedures, and guidelines to handle personal data. They provide high-quality data and integrity used for decision-making and mitigation risk techniques for unauthorized data disclosure. This includes transparency, which is when an organization's data policies and practices are made known and there is a clear and comprehensible notice provided before personal data is created, gathered, used, processed, stored, erased, or disclosed. Individual participation, which is the process of using sensitive data and obtaining consent before it is created, gathered, used, processed, stored, erased, or disclosed. There should also be procedures put in place to answer any questions or complaints pertaining to an individual's privacy. Purpose specifications and its utilization limits, which ought to provide an explanation about how sensitive data will be gathered and how it will be used, processed, stored, erased, or disclosed. It must also remain in alignment with the original purpose for which the gathering of the sensitive data was legally authorized. Minimization, which maintains the relevancy of the data that is created, gathered, used, processed, stored, erased, or disclosed to achieve the goal it was legally authorized to pursue, and disposes of said data within the duration of its legal confines. Data quality and integrity, which ensures an individual's personal data is accurate and relevant in upholding fairness before it is created, gathered, used, processed, stored, erased, or disclosed. Security of an individual's sensitive data, which is established using safeguards like administrative, technical, and physical to mitigate risks and the impact if compromised from unauthorized access, usage, altered data, data lost, erasure, or disclosure. Accountability, which demands organizations thoroughly track, audit, and document all actions pertaining to compliance, solidify the roles and duties of staff, and provide proper training to staff with access to any amount of an individual's sensitive data. Auditing, which revises the usage of sensitive data to effectively illustrate compliance with FIPPs, principles, and other protective privacy demands. When comparing privacy laws and regulations, FIPPs, PIPEDA, CCP, and GDPR might have a lot of overlap, but they're also very different. FIPPs is a set of principles used to create laws, but they are not laws themselves, whereas PIPEDA is a federal law specific to the Canadian government, CCP is a state law specific to California, and GDPR is a regulation but also a European law specific to the EU and entities involved with the EU. Each one gives consumers and clients rights to access, but since FIPPs is not a law, it can only recommend organizations giving the ability to modify, update, and dispute. With PIPEDA, CCP, and GDPR, they all have the right to be informed, access, dispute, and the ability to erase, with CCPA having slightly more control, allowing its residents to opt out and to not experience any discrimination when using their CCP rights, and being able to place a limitation on what personal data can and cannot be involved. The biggest difference in the four is with the GDPR, because there is a right that protects them from having them be subjected to automated processes. For consent, FIPPs recommends obtaining consent for all data collection. PIPEDA, CCP, and GDPR, for the most part, follow this, with the exception being with CCPA, which doesn't necessarily state that it requires consent, but it does give consumers an option to opt out of the data sales and sharing. For enforcement and penalties, FIPPs is used as a code of conduct. PIPEDA and CCPA are both enforced and penalized by the Attorney General. With PIPEDA, fines are up to $100,000, and CCPA, each lawsuit can be up to $750 per incident. Using GDPR, penalties are defined by each member state and fines are up to 20 million euros or 4% of the worldwide annual turnover. For security, FIPPs recommends mandating security. PIPEDA, CCPA, and GDPR all follow suit by requiring safeguards and security measures be put in place to protect the data. The biggest difference between PIPEDA, CCPA, and GDPR requires state residents to be given control over the usage of their data, which means they have more control over how they use the data as opposed to PIPEDA and GDPR. FIPPs is crucial in the protection of an individual's sensitive data. It provides a secure way to ensure that quality of data and integrity are present, holds organizations accountable for providing access and rights to individuals, and ensures sensitive data is shared responsibly. Implementing these principles helps to reduce the chances of unauthorized data disclosure and may yield favorable opportunities during the decision-making process. Federal organizations like the Department of Homeland Security have implemented this set of principles in enforcing the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act, or CISA. Using the pillars of FIPPs, transparency was utilized when publishing privacy compliance documents that give details regarding the receipt, retention, usage, and circulation of cyber threat signals, and when notifying an individual when their sensitive data has been shared. Individual participation was utilized when defining what may be considered sensitive data based on if the data identifies an individual. Organizations will work to mitigate how it may impact privacy and civil liberties of an individual by demanding organizational review and removal of sensitive data that identifies the individual not related to the cyber threat. Purpose specification and use limitation was utilized when CISA authorized organizations to use cyber threat signals and defensive methods when working to identify, prevent, or mitigate certain threats that may cause physical or economic harm. Data minimization was utilized when limitations were placed on the receipt, retention, usage, and circulation of cyber threat signals containing sensitive data, and the encouragement to remove all sensitive data when utilizing defensive methods. Data quality and integrity were utilized when addressing the limitations of cyber threat signals. It is recommended that organizations only maintain these signals for a limited time or when the signals are no longer tangible to CISA's directive. Security was utilized when security measures like access controls or segregating data were recommended to protect data from unauthorized use or access. And accountability and auditing were utilized when CISA demanded all organizations ensure their auditing capabilities were up to par to regulate the receipt, retention, and usage of cyber threat signals, and to schedule meetings for guideline reviews and updates biannually to ensure compliance. I hope this video has been helpful and informative. If you have any suggestions about what I may or may not have missed, I highly appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a blessed day.